Does anyone know what time it is? By the time we're done here, we will examine the network time protocol and the core concepts behind it. It seems like such a simple thing. Let's make sure all the clocks are set on our devices. But it's not. Technically it is, but it's just one more thing on all the different layers of things that we have to do and we have to manage in the realm of the network environment and in the realm of, I'll just say, technology in general. If you've ever been in any other IT field like Microsoft or Linux or any of these other places, you know the impact of having time drift on your servers too far. Domains can collapse, network clients can't authenticate, and in the Cisco world it could get even worse. Log files get out of sync. Now you're like, what does that mean? Well, yeah, log files are really important because you can have actually, hey, I've got a whole topology just waiting for me to click on it. You can have all your devices set up and logging turned on, and when an event happens, you're going to need to coordinate that. That is, let's say you have evil person X out here, evil person, and they are trying to hack into the network, and they're successful, and they start, getting into certain services, and then jump off of this router into other routers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're getting log files via a protocol known as syslog, often reported to a centralized server for all of the people to analyze and see what's happening. Well, if your time is way off on your devices, it's impossible to try and coordinate when an event happened and when it happened in another. And obviously I'm using an intruder as one of the examples here, but that could be routing protocol failures. It could be a spanning tree. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen that you need those accurate timestamps in your log. The second thing is oftentimes certificates are timestamps. So when you get into things like SSH and VPNs and we'll just call it certificate-based authentication, those certificates are time-stamped. And it's a known denial of service attack to try and sabotage the time on one of your devices so that it actually messes up and causes the certificate to expire or to not be valid in some way, to where the services literally stop working because the time drifted too far. So what we have is NTP, and the concept is simple. Your network devices, router, switch, wireless access point, whatever, just about all of them support NTP, can access a server known as an NTP server. And that server can provide the time back to that device. Now, that would be considered an NTP client in that case, where it's receiving the time from a certain server, and it will continue to pull that server on a regular interval to ensure it stays in sync. Now, what about that server? Well, that server gets its time from another server and another server, and eventually lands on the server that is considered the Stratum 0. Now, I've never seen a Stratum 0 device, but it's supposed to be the atomic clock. Like if the universe ended, the Stratum 0 device would say, that's what time it ended. I don't know. So the Stratum 0 is an atomic-based clock. There's just a few of them in the world, and they are the providers of the time to Stratum 1 devices. If you get your time from a Stratum 1 device, that means you're a Stratum 2 device. So the further down the chain you go, the more increased your Stratum number becomes. So technically, the less accurate your time is. Now, our devices are so accurate and so timely, if you will, on getting the time that, a Stratum 5, 6, 7 device is probably not going to be that far off from a Stratum 0 because it's kept in sync the whole way down the chain. So one of the things that we will often do is rather than configure, let me just go to a network diagram. Rather than configure all of our different network devices to go access the NTP server directly, we will set up maybe a head-end device or a couple head-end devices, if you've got redundancy, with the ability to go get the server from an internet time source. They will then become the NTP server for our network. And all of our devices will go in there so we don't increase the load on some server out there by having, potentially hundreds of devices going out and accessing the time on that on a regular interval. We use our device as that head end. Now, where do we go find these NTP servers? Oh, they're all over the place. Just head on over to Google and type in public NTP server, and you will be able to get a whole list of them. That, by the way, the one that I use all the time is this guy right here, pool.ntp.org. These are servers based in the United States of America, and they provide time free. There's no cost to use them to all of the people that request it. And this is not just one server. It's a pool of servers. So I can point to that DNS name, and you can actually see, hang on. I'll open a command prompt and type in nslookup to do a DNS lookup, and we'll say pool.ntp.org. And right there, you can see there's 4 individual IP addresses with who knows how many numerous servers behind each one of those IP addresses that are supporting these lookups. Now, there are 3 ways that we can configure our Cisco devices to sync with an NTP server. The number one most common way, and so much so that I will say I've deployed these in lab environments, but I've never actually used them in production, is a client-server relationship. And that is where, just like I was saying, you define your server and all the clients receive their time from that server. You can also have it set up as a multicast or broadcast to where that NTP server can actually send out broadcast messages to all the different devices that are on a segment so they receive it and automatically sync the time. Or multicast messages if you want it to pass through a single LAN environment. The beauty of multicast is it's like a radio station. You can set it as a tuner and all the different devices tune in to that frequency, and you can actually have it expand beyond just a single LAN segment. That said, it's all too easy to set up a client-server relationship, so usually deploying multicast NTP isn't a thing. That's the foundation concepts behind the network time protocol. In the next video, we're going to look at how to set up an NTP client. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.